use the same model for what they did. And I know too much about this because I spent too much time working on it.
Yeah.
But it's annoying as all hell because it's there, it works, do the same thing. But when you go and talk to a minister whose responsibility is to be, no, these have to be my laws, like good luck with that. Like,
would you recommend then setting up a Cayman or BVI and then a local SPC or whatever is easiest to set up and then have 100% ownership for them?
Yeah, I think like the stopgap measure is this, like get the companies, the startups to register somewhere else, have that company own the local company, and then that sort of has been working for now. But it's not the ideal measure. Like you want startups to be able to, in any jurisdiction, any market that they're in, to be able to launch quickly, get registered, be able to shut down quickly as well. That's a big issue. We didn't even have a bankruptcy law until like this year or last year?
In Bahrain, yeah.
In Bahrain. And so things like that, they're not rocket science, but it's just like there's so much inertia against them because a lot of these ministries aren't structured in a way to think about it from a startup viewpoint. A lot of them are structured in a way, how can we protect our industries? How can we protect the investor community in our market? How can we protect and make sure no one comes to us and shouts at us when something goes wrong with one of these companies? So it's that mindset. It's like, let me protect myself rather than let me make sure that people can get what they need to get done. Yeah. Sorry, that's a rant, but it's
no,
like
it's I think it's an interesting response, and maybe later on you can exchange contacts and you can draw on the different experiences that Hassan have had with the jurisdictions and the setup of the VC funds. If I may add to that point, I'm more than happy to share with you the Bahrain experience in creating a collaborative effort between the private and public sector, what we call Team Bahrain approach of resolving concerns and challenges facing startups. So we do hold informal roundtable sessions. We invite the community, the stakeholders, the VCs, universities, corporate partners, share with them the vision of Bahrain being a test bed launchpad for startups in the region, taking in comments from startups on the hurdles, on the gaps that they are facing, and then channel it to the ecosystem players, the stakeholders, and government officials that are seated around that informal table, where they take in that feedback and make it a priority for them to resolve it and to fast track it. I'm more than happy to share with you more information about it. The different regulations and the different progress that has been happening in Bahrain is found online. Startupbahrain.com is the focal point of contact for anyone inquiring about the ecosystem in Bahrain, who the main players are, the VCs that are available. We spoke about Al Waha Fund of Fund. We spoke about the angel networks. We spoke about the accelerators, and many more are on the website as well for you to browse around, connect with us, and that is your channel. Ask any question, inquire about anything. The whole team Bahrain will get back to you shortly. Do we have another question from the audience? Yes. Do we have a mic, please? Yes. Please introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm Costa. I sit on the UK board of Gen UK, and I also run something called Super Connect Series, which is bringing tech startups and scale-ups from around the UK to other countries to collaborate with corporate investors and normal investors. And I wanted to ask, how receptive is Bahrain to external companies coming and not just starting a company and registering, but also just coming to tap into the ecosystem to raise money locally, maybe to be based here for 3 to 6 months for business development, and then go back? Do you have to come to start and stay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Would you like to take it?
So initially when we came, we were looking at early stage startups. More and more we're seeing that there are a lot of global startups who can solve a lot of local problems. So for example, right now, if you look at the UAE, there's a huge push in vertical farming, aeroponics, hydroponics, because there's a huge problem in this region. We have a lot of sun, we have a lot of sand, And that's pretty much it. So how do we solve that? So there's tons of companies coming in. Like we have a company that we're investing in from Malaysia who has a lot of stuff that they want to focus on sensors in aeroponics and hydroponics. So definitely we implore these companies to come here because without them, they're not going to get solved. I don't think in the region right now we have enough know-how to solve these problems. So we need these entrepreneurs to come here, set up, and not necessarily move your entire topco, right? But if you can send 2-3 folks who are probably in business development, maybe in engineering, they can run around the region, they set up in Bahrain, go to Saudi, go to the Emirates, go to Kuwait, and solve these problems. And having Bahrain as your hub is fantastic because you don't have any Saudization. If anything, you have support from Tamkeen to hire locals and get wage subsidies. So coming here and setting up is very easy. You know, there's not a huge capital requirement, and at least you can explore from here, and you don't have to move your entire company. So yes, that's our actual outlook for the next 2-3 years, is that because we're investing globally in all these companies, and if they can come here and move a couple of folks and solve some of these problems, it's a great thing to do.
And maybe to add to Yassine's point, we do have at the EDB, we've got 18 offices around different markets. The head of the UK office is actually with us here, Khalid. Maybe you can connect later, and we would be delighted to be your focal point of contact, helping the companies navigate through the ecosystem here in Bahrain, exploring different soft landing options, depending on the activities that the startups are trying to set up. Here in Bahrain, and just to reiterate on that point, the country is open for 100% foreign ownership. You do get government grants and support from different agencies, such as Tamkeen, for hiring, for training and development of your local hires. We're more than happy to take you through the whole sort of value proposition later after the session. Thank you for your question.
I'll come and speak to you.
Having said that, though, if I could add a little bit, if you're coming here to fundraise for startups from the UK, I don't think you're going to have much luck. Like in the region, there's almost no venture capital as a MENA region as a whole. It's still a very nascent industry. So if you're going to fly in and try and raise and then go back, I would recommend not wasting your time.
It's actually mainly for corporate innovation, really, rather than investment.
Yeah, so I would, if you in the region, you need to build long-term relationships, and so basing yourself here somewhere is probably a more recommended course of action rather than flying in and out. But yeah, forget about fundraising if that's the case.
Thank you, Hassan. I think we have time for one additional question. I saw a hand raised up earlier. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Chris Dorian, a startup called BuildSort. That's a payments platform for construction. Just a question on what kind of startups are you looking for in this region?
Is that question specified to someone specific on the
open
panel?
Open to the panel.
Okay.
He writes checks, so maybe
So startup, checks, cloud services, and hardware. I don't know where you would fit in.
I guess it's checks.
always.
Always checks. It's always checks. So I think the region is really very open. It's a nascent market in almost every industry. Things that are well developed in other markets, e-commerce, payments, logistics, are still ripe for destruction across the MENA region. So we're investing in great teams that are going after these markets and have been able to show traction in the local market and understand what they're playing. We don't need rocket science. We need someone that can apply something to this market and be able to grow their business. Because like Kareem, which was a success story for the region, $3 billion exit to Uber. It's the first time Uber's acquired a company in their global operations. That was, again, not rocket science, but they understood the market. They localized what they were working on. They were able to defeat Uber in a lot of different markets that they're doing because they knew what they were doing. They knew the issues in those markets. They knew how to scale into different markets as well. And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people that understand the market, understand how to grow into this market with great teams indication of traction and things like that. So, yeah, it's just so much opportunity that there's no specific sector that's full of startups. Like there's opportunity everywhere. Yeah.
Thank you, Hassan. Maybe we can have a discussion later on to get to know more about your company, your startup, and help introduce you to some of different stakeholders here in Bahrain that are not on the panel, if you'd like. Thank you for the question. Organizers, do we have room for one more question? Any additional questions before we wrap up? Yes.
It's always one.
Hi, I'm Kevin from India. And well, I came here just looking in Bahrain and Dubai, if I were to start something here, I just want to know, what is the first point of contact? Who do I contact first if I... All right, so that is it Jen Bahrain or...
It's Pakiza at startupbahrain.com.
Bahrain.
Yes, I'll exchange with you my contacts and we'll just have a chat later on.
Can I add a point? Can I add a point as to why you should pick Bahrain, though? Is that of interest to you?
Well, the region.
Okay, well, you should pick Bahrain, and let me tell you why.
Okay.
So normally when you're first getting started, you don't know what you're doing, right? You may have an idea, but you're still ways ahead from generating revenue, having customers. And so it's really important that in the beginning, you could pilot your ideas.
Yeah.
You put something out, you talk to customers, you gather feedback, you pivot or iterate, and the feedback loop continues. And so for us with EDAP, it spent about 1 year in the beginning making all types of mistakes. And you need to be somewhere where the population is savvy enough to understand technology, but also forgiving, right? So you may have an idea and you may come to Dubai, for example, and Dubai has a big problem. Too many startups, right? So if you pick, let's say, our industry in restaurants, you have 10 players doing delivery, 4 players doing bookings, another 15 doing software, right? So restaurants continue to receive calls on a daily basis of these entrepreneurs pitching them ideas. So they tend to just shut the door if they haven't heard about you before, or it wasn't a referral from a friend, or if you're not on the news, then it's very unlikely that they'll accept you, right? Whereas Bahrain, on the other hand, has a much more forgiving culture, and most of if you do B2B, for example, for us, in the very beginning, we gave them our product, and I remember adding a booking. If you clicked on book multiple times, it was creating multiple reservations. You're getting multiple text messages. The platform was really buggy, but they were so forgiving, and that enabled us to quickly iterate on the product, spend the time building and not be distracted by competition or merchants pushing us away. So I think Bahrain is the perfect sandbox for the region if, say, you have an idea and you decide to launch. At least for us, I think if it wasn't for Bahrain, ETAP wouldn't be able to reach where we reached. And then once we were able to take over or work with most of the merchants, then we went abroad and went to other markets and said, hey, this is the Bahraini leader, we're #1, and that enabled us to talk to most of these merchants. So, I'd highly recommend considering launching somewhere with a forgiving culture that is innovative, that is happy to test new technologies, but also very far from distractions and competition. That's really important in the beginning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Nizar, for your amazing points. With that, I'd like to conclude our session today. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you, panelists, for your amazing contribution. And we're more than happy to take discussions later on after this. Thank you.
Take your seat.